The frost on the windshield had become Marcus Webb's alarm clock. Every morning at dawn, when the first pale light crept across the parking lot behind the abandoned strip mall, he would wake to find his breath crystallized on the glass, turning his beaten-down sedan into a fragile cocoon of ice. For a man who had once commanded a platoon through the burning deserts of Afghanistan, who had carried wounded brothers on his back through enemy fire, this was the hardest battle he had ever fought. The enemy now was invisible, relentless, and it lived inside his own mind, whispering that he was worthless, that he had failed, that he deserved this cold prison of metal and shame. Marcus was 42 years old, though the mirror suggested someone much older. His eyes, once sharp and determined, now carried the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. The nightmares came without warning, dragging him back to the sound of explosions, the screams of his men, the moment when everything fell apart. He had returned from war with medals pinned to his chest and demons embedded in his soul. The Department of Veterans Affairs had tried to help, but the bureaucracy moved like molasses while Marcus was drowning. His marriage collapsed under the strain of his PTSD. His job at the construction company ended when the panic attacks became too frequent, too violent. One by one, the threads holding his life together snapped, until all that remained was this car, a duffel bag of clothes, and the crushing weight of isolation. The parking lot had become his refuge because it was quiet and forgotten. Most people drove past without a second glance, and that was exactly how Marcus wanted it. He had become a ghost, invisible to a world that had moved on without him. During the day, he would walk to the public library where he could use the bathroom, charge his phone, and pretend to read while actually just trying to stay warm. Sometimes he would sit in the park and watch families playing children, laughing, couples holding hands, and he would remember what it felt like to belong somewhere, to someone. Those memories hurt more than the cold ever could. On this particular November morning, Marcus woke to find something unusual on his windshield. At first, he thought it was just another parking violation or advertisement, but as he wiped away the frost, he saw it was a handwritten note pressed under the wiper blade. The paper was decorated with crayon drawings of hearts and stars, and the writing was in the careful, deliberate script of a child. His hands trembled as he unfolded it, not from the cold this time, but from something he had not felt in years, hope mixed with fear. The note read, "Dear Sir, my name is Emma and I am 8 years old. I saw you sleeping in your car and you looked cold. My daddy says some heroes don't have homes and that's not fair. I want to help you. Inside this envelope is all the money from my piggy bank. It's $47. Please use it to get something warm to eat and maybe a blanket. You are not alone. You are important. I believe in you. P.S. My daddy says you might be a veteran, and if you are, thank you for your service. You deserve better." Marcus read the note 3 times before the words fully penetrated the walls he had built around his heart. $47 in crumpled bills and coins were taped to the back of the paper. His vision blurred as tears spilled down his weathered cheeks, the first real tears he had allowed himself to shed in months. This child, this little girl named Emma, who knew nothing about him except that he was suffering, had given him everything she had. She had seen him when the rest of the world looked away. She had called him a hero when he felt like the greatest failure who ever lived. If you believe in the power of kindness, if you believe in second chances and the goodness that still exists in this world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Now, let me tell you what happened next. Because Emma's note did not just give Marcus money, it gave him something far more valuable. It gave him a reason to keep fighting. Marcus sat in his car for a long time, holding that note like it was a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. Something inside him shifted, like tectonic plates grinding together after years of stillness. He thought about Emma, about the sacrifice she had made, about the purity of her compassion. She had given him her treasure, not because she expected anything in return, but simply because she believed he mattered. How could he dishonor that gift by continuing to give up on himself? How could he let this little girl's faith in him be wasted? For the first time in months, Marcus took action. He used some of Emma's money to buy a decent meal, his first real food in days. Then he walked to the veteran center he had been avoiding, the place where his pride had prevented him from seeking help. He told them about the note, about Emma, about how a child's kindness had broken through his armor of despair. The counselor who met with him, a former Marine named Rodriguez, listened without judgment. They talked for hours about PTSD, about survivor's guilt, about the particular kind of pain that comes from feeling like you survived when better men did not. Rodriguez helped Marcus navigate the system he had found so overwhelming. Within days, Marcus was enrolled in a rapid rehousing program specifically for homeless veterans. He was connected with a therapist who specialized in combat trauma, someone who understood the nightmares without needing them explained. He was given temporary housing while he worked on getting back on his feet, a small studio apartment that felt like a palace after months in his car. Most importantly, he was surrounded by people who had walked similar paths, veterans who understood that asking for help was not weakness, but the bravest thing a broken person could do. But Marcus could not stop thinking about Emma. He needed to thank her, to let her know that her kindness had not been a small gesture, but a turning point that had literally saved his life. Through the community center near where he had been parking, he managed to locate Emma's family. Her father, Daniel, was a teacher who had been explaining homelessness to his daughter after she kept asking why some people slept in cars. Emma had insisted on helping, and when she saw Marcus, she had taken her piggy bank savings without telling her parents and left it on his windshield before school one morning. When Marcus finally met Emma and her family 3 weeks later, he was clean-shaven, dressed in donated clothes, and carrying something precious. He had written Emma a letter explaining how her kindness had changed his life, how she had reminded him that he was still a person worth saving. He had also brought her a replacement piggy bank, this one shaped like a heart, filled with $47. But more than that, he brought her his story of transformation, evidence that her compassion had created ripples far beyond what she could have imagined. Emma listened with wide eyes as this tall, dignified man told her that she was his hero. Daniel and his wife, Sarah, struggled to hold back their own tears as Marcus explained how close he had been to giving up entirely, how their daughter's simple act of seeing him, really seeing him, had pulled him back from the edge. Emma, with the uncomplicated wisdom of children, simply hugged Marcus tightly and whispered, "I knew you were important. I could tell." Marcus began volunteering at the Veteran Center, using his experience to help others who were fighting the same battles he had faced. He found purpose in being the person for others that Emma had been for him, the voice that said, "You matter. You are not alone. There is still hope." His journey was not easy or linear. The nightmares still came. The struggle with PTSD continued. But he was no longer fighting alone in the dark, invisible and forgotten. If this story has touched your heart, if you felt something shift inside you while hearing about Emma and Marcus, I want to ask you something important. Please take a moment to hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below telling us about a time when a small act of kindness made a difference in your life. Your engagement helps us reach more people with these powerful reminders of our shared humanity. 6 months after finding Emma's note, Marcus stood before a group of at-risk veterans, sharing his story of homelessness, despair, and redemption. He carried that crayon-decorated note with him everywhere, laminated now and kept in his wallet as a reminder of what one person's compassion could accomplish. He spoke about Emma not as a child, but as a teacher who had understood something profound, that every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, and that sometimes the smallest gesture of recognition and care can be the difference between someone giving up and someone finding the strength to try again. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe that kindness can change the world, one person at a time. The story of Marcus and Emma spread through their community, inspiring others to look for the invisible people among them, to see those who had been overlooked and discarded. Marcus eventually found stable employment, reconnected with his estranged daughter, and continued his therapy with dedication and courage. He never forgot the morning he woke to find hearts and stars drawn by a child's hand, never forgot that he had been saved not by grand gestures or government programs alone, but by an 8-year-old girl who had $47 and an infinite capacity for compassion. Some heroes wear uniforms and charge into battle. Others carry piggy banks and crayons. Marcus learned that cold November morning that he had been both kinds of hero in his life, and that accepting help did not diminish his worth but affirmed it. Emma's note had contained more than money. It had contained a truth that Marcus had forgotten in his darkest hours, that he was seen, he was valued, and he was loved by a world that still had goodness hidden in unexpected places. And that made all the difference.